Well, hello. Welcome back to another week on my allotment. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Sunrise is at 5:01, and it looks like it's going to come in with a bit of a whimper today. Very dense cloud cover. The ubiquitous wind. It's a very dry year. We haven't had considerable rain now since February, which is remarkable. But the thing that strikes me and will stick in my memory is the wind. Every day is a strong wind. It makes filming difficult for those technophobes amongst us who don't know how to use microphones. And it's difficult for the crops. You know, anything trying to get its head up is getting battered. Anyway, you're very welcome. There's a few problems on the site. So, nothing's perfect in life. And my plot is no different. So let's start with the stuff I'm not happy with. Well, the biggest mess on my plots is the compost heaps. And I know I've mentioned them before. They're full. Every single bay is full with something. A lot of it's firewood, because we thought we were moving. I was storing firewood here to move to the new property. I mean, in the next month I'll move it all up to the house and store it there. But look at this. The bays are full, so I'm just stacking it and it's blowing all over the floor and it's an absolute mess. However, because it would appear we're now not moving, I can focus on the autumn. And you can see, if you're not aware, just behind there's a stack of wood under that blue tarpaulin. That's all been stored since last year, ready to rebuild these compost bays. And I'm not starting it yet. It's there's too much going on the plot with harvests. But what I am going to do, and I think I'll start that today, is this bed of onions. They're just about done. I don't know what condition they'll be in because of the allium leaf miner, which you can see the damage of. But these onions are coming out today and going up the house to be processed. So far we've chopped up and frozen every onion we've pulled off the site. And then all that excess is going to be dumped on this bed. And I know it's unsightly and it's a mess and it'll probably attract rodents. But I've got no choice. I need that wheelbarrow to process other stuff. So it's making the best. It's a bit like a Rubik's Cube on this plot because I'm short of space even with 2.5 plots. I need to move something else, etc. So that's the plan today, is to tear up these onions and put this excess stuff on this bed. Yeah, that's it basically. So that's the first mess. And just to finish off with the first mess, you can see here green bags. I've got lots of black plastic that was going to go up to the new property to kill the grass before we started to put down no dig beds. That plastic will still come in handy, and I'll put it on some of the beds over winter here. But that's just an extension of the almighty mess that is my compost bays. The second almighty mess is this area. Now in the winter it's very easy to see there's a row of these tubs which were elevated with a view to defeating the carrot fly, because the perceived wisdom is the carrot fly can only fly about 1/2 metre high. That is not true. It can fly as high as the carrots are, and the carrot flies have repeatedly got into these tubs and ruined my carrots. So this year I thought, Martin, you're cleverer than a carrot fly, I'll mesh the tubs. So I did, and then the weeds proliferate because I can't take the mesh off because I've taped it on, and I don't know if there's any carrots in there, but and of course because of the extreme dry weather for the last 4 months, even though I water them regularly, it just isn't sufficient. The weeds have pushed the mesh off most of them. It's an absolute mess. It's a disgrace. And then here is a row of tubs, and those have got potatoes in. You can't see the tubs. It's very difficult to water because of all the haulms on top. You have to push them away to find out where the tubs are. So this is an absolute disgrace. It's got to be changed. So what I'm going to do is, again, over the winter, I'm going to spend a bit of money and I'm going to put in here 2 or 3 long, narrow, raised beds. I'm going to buy some wood and do a proper job. And then I'm going to put hooped lids on them and put Enviromesh on the hoops rather than plastic. And then I'll have a decent system for growing carrots. I don't know where I'll put the potato tubs because there won't be room for them. But anyway, I can't sort this mess now, but that's what I've decided. You know, you need to improve every year, don't you? And this just isn't working. This is probably the most altered area of my whole allotment. I've never quite got it right. And growing carrots, I've had some good crops of carrots out of these tubs. But this year, because of the dry weather and the fact that I couldn't weed the tubs, I mean, just look at it. Anyway, enough said. Of course, I don't want to focus on the negative too much. I've got pumpkins, and quite a lot of them, growing quite nicely, unless the rats have nibbled at the bottom, which is quite a feature on my plot. But yeah, pumpkins are developing. The last of my stepovers, which when I bought it was a bit bendy, and I thought, oh, rather than create a normal T-shaped stepover, I'll create a J-shaped step. Anyway, it didn't work. I bit the bullet and I chopped it, and you can see it's developing nicely. And earlier this week I nipped out all the buds that were forming lower down, so I've got these 2 prominent buds I've put in my cane frame. And in the next week or 2 I shall be able to start training those laterals along the horizontal. And here's, it's a victim of its own success. It's outgrown the cane, and of course the growth just wants to head upwards, and that's good because upward growth grows quicker. See, that bird's still there. It was with me last week. It's still here following me. So yeah, that's good news. Another job I'm going to start today, there's no way I'll finish it, but these are Charlotte potatoes, and I'm going to start to harvest them, dry them and store them. They're not going to be the fresh, young, soft-fleshed potatoes that you normally associate with salad potatoes because they've been in too long, but we'll see. I have no idea how much damage there'll be. That'll be interesting. It's always exciting to dig up your first potatoes. But I'm going to start that today. Well, as is traditional on a Sunday morning this year, my first 2 hours are spent watering. And, you know, I try to get better at it. I'm not sure I do, but it's hard work, back-breaking, carrying water around. And of course, I've been watering since February, well, March. It stopped raining in February and I started watering in March. And here we are, halfway through July, are we? I'm not sure. Anyway, we're in July and I'm still watering. It's hard work. But, you know, if you want the crops, you've got to put in the time and the effort. And that's why the stuff is, you know, the plot. The word I thought about this week was wild. My plot looks wild. All these blackberry canes that are growing 8, 9, 10 feet high, they're the canes that will bear the fruit next year. What I should do is take the time to tie them in and put a cane in and group them together, you know, all that. I don't get time to do that kind of nice to do because I'm so busy doing the must do's. Anyway, earlier in the week we've had our grandson George with us for a week while Mum and Dad are swanning off in Greece. Very nice too, it looks wonderful. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to have him, and on a number of occasions he's come up the plot, as has Cheryl, which has been lovely. It's been lovely to have laughter and fun on the plot, so I just thought I'd show a couple of clips.
Black one, George, like that. Oh, mind your head.
What do you mean mind your head? You bumped him.
Not a red one. one. Look, like this one. George, like that one.
George is eating more than we're picking.
Yeah.
Well, we know he likes blackcurrants, and we know he likes blueberries, and we knew he liked strawberries. Now we know he loves blackberries.
You got a black one? Good boy. Well done. Got a black? No, not a red one. Oh, it's a little black one. Go on then. You get it? That's too small, George. It won't. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's gone.
What, he's eating it?
Yeah, it was black.
Right.
It's just little. I didn't know if the stalk went with it.
That's something to chew on.
No, not that one. This side, look. This black one's this side. There's a black one. Look, this one. There you go, that one.
Yeah, go on, sunshine.
Not the red ones.
You
no,
enjoy
not
them.
Red one.
That's the way to find out where your food comes from.
There you go. There. Straight from the bush. Oh, we're running out of short black ones, George. Let's go up the other one. Found some more up here.
You need to give them a score out of 10. You do it every year. I've never had a 10 yet. Sorry, did you hear me? I said I've never had a 10 yet.
Okay. 9.5.
Okay, I'll take
No,
9.5.
they look good actually. They
Right.
look nice.
Well, I reckon there's about a dozen cauliflower and about 8 or 10 broccoli. And again, with all those peas. And we're looking after George and the dog, so I'm being kind to Cheryl, giving her half an evening off. She's so lucky. Ah, dear. But it's a lovely harvest, and it's time well spent looking to the winter when we need these foods.
That one okay. Oops, watch the flowers.
I don't know, watch the flowers, watch my fruit and veg.
He's eating them all. Look at George.
No, I don't mind that.
They've eaten all your blackberries, Grandad.
Oh, good.
They were yummy.
Well done, George.
They were teaching him colours.
Well, I mentioned routine maintenance every week. And last week, one of the things I had to do was put these Uchiki Kuri pumpkins back into the bed. You can see where they're shooting across. So I wound them all back and sent them back into the bed. Now, whether these are the same leaders that have just turned around and come back, or whether they're different ones, I don't know. But I've got more of that to do. And I mentioned the strong winds we get every day, and these are the casualties. That tomato plant that's cane just isn't up to it. I've got some of these road pins, I think that's what they're called, road pins. Only a limited number, but I've used one of them already, and I'm going to have to use one of them here just to re-stake that. All part and parcel of growing a very heavy fruit on a thin cane. Well, that's the bed emptied, and there's no rain in the forecast for the next couple of weeks, so I'm just going to store them here, let them dry off a little. The bed is now empty, so I can start piling up excess composting material there. It's not going to make the area any tidier, but it gives me an overflow to stick it, because of course this time of the year, as I harvest crops, I'm getting a lot of green material that needs to be composted. So it's a stopover measure. That's not the right phrase, you know what I mean. Until I get the compost bins rebuilt in the autumn and winter. But that's a nice harvest. Now, of course, they've all got allium leaf miner damage, so it may well be that those bulbs are ruined. I don't know yet. I don't know enough about leaf miner, and I'm certainly not throwing them away until I know more. But Cheryl has chopped up that first batch of, I don't know how many, 50, 60 onions. They're all now in the freezer, in portion Ziploc bags, ready to go for the winter. But it looks nice sat there, doesn't it? Ooh. Tell you, some days my back screams. Well, in a week where almost the whole country is screaming out for somebody to fire or sack the Chancellor of our Exchequer, I wonder if you know the difference between being sacked and being fired. Of course you do. Well, I'm going to tell you anyway. It goes back a few hundred years when tradesmen would travel their county looking for work. And of course they didn't have toolboxes back then, they had sacks, and they put their tools in a sack over their shoulder or in the back of the cart, and they moved around plying their wares. And if they were taken on and employed, they would give the employer their tools for safekeeping in their sack, and off they'd go and do their job. And at some point the work would run out, the project would finish, or their trade wouldn't be required anymore, and the employer would thank them for their work, hand them their sack of tools, and they would be on their way. Absolutely no dishonour in that whatsoever, and that was being sacked, given the sack. However, being fired, if a tradesman was poor, unprofessional, and in any way inadequate, to the point where the employer didn't think they should work for them or anyone else, they would take their tools to the local forge and melt them so that they couldn't work. And that meant their tools were fired, and so were they. And of course that's, you know, dishonourable and unprofessional. So there's a big difference between giving the sack and being fired. Not a lot of people know that. I remember a few years ago on Gardener's World, Monty Don said that by August tomato plants don't need the leaves, and you can start before then chopping off the lower leaves, allowing more light, air, warmth, etc. into the bottom of the plant, thus helping the fruit to ripen. And that's what I've always done, and I've started it here. You can see that the lower fruit are exposed. And then I watched a lady on YouTube, and she said that that is the perceived wisdom, but she always leaves all the leaves on. The leaves continue to feed the plant, and she always gets a better crop because of it. I find that, I mean, I'm sure it's the same in any hobby, pastime, whatever. There are myths and traditions, and very often they're not founded in any scientific evidence. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Do you take your lower leaves off, or do you leave all the leaves on? I'm sure there's something in allowing more air to circulate around the plants. I'm sure that's got to be good. I don't know. If you have any knowledge, expertise, or any thoughts, please leave them in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear. When you pull apart a few leaves, the Uchiki Kuri are starting to form, although they do look a little bit on top of each other. But yeah, fascinating to watch. I've never grown them before. Going to end up bright red, I think, and right now they're bright yellow. You see him? I've never known anything like it. He follows me everywhere. I don't know what I've done to deserve such loyalty. I've never had that before. Wow. The ground is like cement. I can't get the fork in. Ooh. Oh, the first one. It actually went, oh, there we are. It's amazing. Oh, there are potatoes in there. I'm going to have to try a different method. Slightly different approach. Right, well, that's one of the 3 rows done, and that'll do me for now. But I've never had to use the Chillington hoe to dig potatoes out before. That ground was, as I said, like concrete. But from one row, I've got a nice crop, very little slug damage because of the dry weather. And the red ones are Java, and they're obviously from last year. I grew Java in this bed. But, you know, any potatoes welcome. So I'm very happy with that, if you times that by 3. Well, I've just taken a modest little picking of peas, and I think that's the last one. It's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and it's a very short season. You know, I've picking for maybe a month, not quite that. I think, having read online on some of the forums about these aldermans, they are very hungry and thirsty, and everybody recommends digging a trench deep and filling it with kitchen scraps and waste to hold moisture. So if I'm going to do this again, and I suspect I will, then that's what I'll have to do. And as usual, still he follows me. If that's not the most perfect looking flower, I don't know what is. Truly stunning. Well, I got the weather forecast wrong. It's tipping down. I don't think it'll last for long, but it's very welcome. Right, another good harvest. Excuse the panting, that's not me, that's the dog. We're dog sitting as well as babysitting. Not much of a Romanesco, but it's a bit. It'll do for our tea tonight. And the last picking of peas. So I'm very happy with that. And actually, in the end, I did dig up 2 rows of those Charlotte potatoes with some Java mixed in. And they'll be dried at home and then bagged. Very happy with that. It's a good crop. Very, very little damage. Maybe half a dozen potatoes out of the lot that I had to chuck. What a day of weather. We've had strong winds, as we always do. It was quite chilly this morning. Then we had a few showers. Wasn't in the forecast. And now it's baking. Anyway, I've had a good day. It's early afternoon, and I feel I ought to go home now and take over from Cheryl looking after little George. Although I've had the dog, we're dog sitting and babysitting, and I tend to be left with the dog. So yeah, the crops are going well. I think that's my last picking of peas. When I can produce a good clean head of cauliflower, that gives me so much pleasure. And that one is a good example. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. Please give me a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully I shall be around next weekend. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, and bye for now.